Tanzania. It's a land of heat and hustle, style and squalor, kindness and corruption. You might know it as the safari capital of the world, but there's a lot more to Tanzania than just its ecosystem. My name is Jon Lott, and I'm going to show you what Tanzania is really like from the inside. Positioned in East Africa just south of the equator, below Kenya, Tanzania is home to over 55 million people. Half of these are younger than 25, and more than half the population lacks employment. Swahili and English are the official languages, but they're not native tongues to most Tanzanians. The vast majority of citizens learns a tribal language first, which they use to communicate with their family or their village. Swahili is taught to the population afterwards, and it serves to unite more than 100 different ethnic tribes under a common language. Tanzanians are incredibly proud of the Swahili language, which is also spoken in Tanzania's neighbors, Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, and parts of Mozambique, Uganda, and the DRC. As for English, fewer than 10% of Tanzanians can carry on a conversation. It's the language of business and tourism, which makes up a great part of the local economy, but most people can't speak it. I lived in Arusha, the third largest city in Tanzania and the safari hub of the nation. My family has personal history in Arusha, Tanzania. My father went to school for 4 years there when he was young, and my mother runs a nonprofit organization. Arusha and its surrounding areas are home to just under 500,000 people. Tanzania has almost as much land as California, Nevada, and Oregon put together. But only one city in the country, Dar es Salaam, is home to over 1 million citizens. Dar has almost 4.5 million residents. The rest of Tanzania's population is dispersed among smaller cities and towns and villages across the country. Tanzania is situated very close to the equator, but the inland region is not as hot as you might think. Arusha is about a mile above sea level, and most of the country is at least 3,000 feet above sea level. It is warm, though, so warm and close to the equator that the country can support 3 grow seasons every year. Mangoes, bananas, onions, papaya, watermelon all grow in huge quantities and can be purchased in the right places for a fraction of Western market prices. Tanzania also exports coffee, grain, tobacco, and sisal, which they fashion into rope or rugs. It's no surprise, then, that most of the population that has a job is involved in farming. Agriculture accounts for about 2/3 of the jobs in Tanzania, but many of those are simply subsistence farmers. Because the unemployment rate is so high, and because there is so much farming, the profit margins are small to non-existent. There is no minimum wage in Tanzania, and across all sectors the competition is fierce. Many people in the service industry work for free, and those that don't get paid about 5,000 shillings a day. That's a little over $2 for the whole day. If it looks like my camera work is a little shaky, that's because I was taking this video in secret. A lot of Tanzanians don't like it when you take video of them, mostly because they think that you should be paying them if you're going to take any kind of images of them whatsoever. Everything in Tanzania runs on cash, which is one of the greatest problems in their society. There are banks for the elite 1%, who are probably corrupt government officials, and for Westerners, but basically no locals have bank accounts. The largest bill in Tanzanian currency is 10,000 shillings, which isn't even worth $6. There are no loans, no lines of credit, and the net worth of most Tanzanians is less than $20. If you want to buy land or a car, you need to have a huge stack of shillings. And without a bank, it's difficult to save that money. In the last few years, BitPesa was introduced, and it's growing in use around cities slowly. BitPesa is a system of paying from a cell phone, but it's not widespread yet. Strangely, everyone has a cell phone in Tanzania, from the 14-year-old farmer to a 50-year-old Masai warrior living on the Serengeti, and it's a testament to the importance of staying connected in this world. The cash-only ecosystem contributes to many other issues in Tanzanian society. It becomes nearly impossible for the government to tax businesses when everything is being done in cash. And by the way, everything is negotiable. Prices for most things are debatable, and white people get a special high price. Locals and visitors haggle for the best deals, and vendors will usually take a microscopic profit because they know they'll lose the sale to some seller 10 feet away who's been eavesdropping on the negotiation. If you know the value of everything like I do, shopping in Tanzania can be a really fun and empowering experience. If you don't, it can be stressful, embarrassing, and overwhelming. Not only is almost everything negotiable, everyone is a salesman. White people can't walk 10 meters downtown without being approached by someone trying to sell you something. They might follow you for 20 minutes talking about their friend's art shop, a restaurant downtown, or a tourist destination they can bring you to. These people will get a cut out of whatever sale they can manage, and the good ones make a living out of it. We call them stringers, and as unwelcome as they can also be a valuable source of information in a world full of hustlers. And even though they harass you, they usually speak English fairly well, and they can be fun to banter with. Everyone is trying to out-hustle each other on the street, and white skin makes for a good target. The racial dynamics of Tanzania are complicated, but it usually comes down to the perception of white people having money. And if you manage to fly to Tanzania, it basically automatically means that you have more money than 95% of the people there. Odds are you're going on safari, so you've got cash. Everyone wants to be your friend because everyone is desperate for an opportunity to work or to skim some of your money for themselves. The first question everyone asks is, where are you from? Most people give you special treatment, but it's because they think you have more money than their local customer. And white girls can expect a lot of unwanted attention from guys who see them as status objects or opportunities to climb out of poverty. Because you're white, you can never be sure if you're being taken advantage of or if you're being lied to. And this can be one of the most frustrating parts of operating in Tanzanian society. But I'd take being a foreign visitor over being a native local every day of the week. And sometimes it doesn't feel right to complain. It's complicated. Since everything is done in cash, and since the government can't effectively tax most transactions, governmental services are virtually non-existent. There is a police force, they dress in all white, and they usually don't carry firearms, but it's more of a legitimized shakedown operation than law enforcement. They stop vehicles constantly to check their stickers and see if they can fine you for anything, no matter what your skin color is. Sometimes the police will ask for soda money, but they're really looking for a bribe or a handout. I was told by many people, locals and visitors, that it's gotten a lot better in the last few years, but the corruption still exists. When you're paying policemen virtually nothing and giving them power, expect corruption. And this corruption goes beyond police. Most government officials will give you a hard time, delay projects, or they'll try to stress you out and offer an easy solution for a price. My advice? Don't pay any bribe more than 10,000 shillings. I've been to a lot of different countries, and that advice goes for just about every foreign country. Learn the language, and people will expect that you know the price of things. They'll think you understand their culture better, maybe that you even live or work there. If you speak to the locals in Tanzania in Swahili, they won't follow you as much because they know that you're not just in town to book a safari. The stringers will think you're familiar with the usual grift, and they'll look for better targets. Since the government can't tax people reliably, the roads in Tanzania are a disaster. I saw fewer than 10 paved roads in my time living in Arusha, and only one traffic light. Most roads are rocky dirt roads, sloping unpleasantly, and they're all really bumpy. This can wear out a car very quickly, and it's not much fun to ride on. Almost half the vehicles on the road are piki, little motorcycles that locals rent every day. They serve as nimble taxis, ferrying people around without helmets. The most common means of transportation, however, is a dala, a large van that goes along a set circuit, charging people about 1,000 shillings, that's about 40 cents, for a 15-minute ride. Up to 30 people can be squeezed inside one, believe it or not. And there are, of course, no public buses or trains. Without tax revenue, the government schools are way underfunded. Teachers are owed back pay for months, and classrooms are stuffed with as many as 5 times the students they're supposed to. There are virtually no supplies, and the education that children receive is insufficient in every way. It's one of the reasons why the population is booming, unemployment is skyrocketing, and why few multinational corporations want to operate in Tanzania. I never went to Dar es Salaam, the most populous city, so I'm mostly speaking from my experiences and the stories I heard from Arusha locals and other foreigners. I've heard there is no fire department or ambulance service, and I never saw fire trucks or ambulances. There were no fire hydrants anywhere, and the city's electrical and water system was lacking. Water is neither scarce nor common, but clean water is rare. Bottled water is sold everywhere, but at 1,000 shillings a bottle, about 40 cents, most Tanzanians can't afford it. Most locals boil tank or well water before use. Filtration systems and chemical treatments are basically unknown to them. Few homes have electricity or water in them, and most homes have 1 or 2 rooms for everything. Tens of millions of Tanzanians lack access to water and electricity, the vast majority of the 55 million population. There is a cultural concept in Tanzania that it's impolite to refuse your friends and family when they're requesting money. Almost all jobs that are taxed pay once every month on the last weekday of the month. The unemployed or the day-to-day stringers or the poor laborers or the unpaid interns or the children or the grandparents each go to their other family members or their friends who have stable jobs, and they ask them for money. In a few days, all the money that was earned in the last month is dispersed among their friends and family, and it's all spent within the next week. Then, for the next 3 or 4 weeks of the month, everyone is broke or close to it until the next payday. It's a good thing Tanzanians value peace so much because they could never find the money to support a war. Now would be a good time to discuss the history and politics of Tanzania. Tanzania as a country is just over 50 years old. The coast was colonized by Portuguese traders long ago, then later by Arabs, then later by Germans. After the First World War, Germany ceded Tanzania, then called Tanganyika, to England. 2 years later, the island of Zanzibar was granted independence from England, and the next year, in 1964, the two nations merged to create Tanzania. Now there are two major political parties in Tanzania, with a handful of minor parties. The ruling party, CCM, has been in charge for over 20 years. The minority party, Chadema, has virtually no power since CCM controls a strong majority in the National Assembly. Politics doesn't really play an important role in most people's lives in Tanzania. Their focus is on religion. Tanzania is about 1/3 Muslim, 1/3 Christian, and 1/3 various tribal religions. Don't ask what denomination of Christian they are because they couldn't tell you. All the religions in Tanzania coexist very peacefully, and you can see a church one place and hear the Muslim call to prayer just down the road. But if someone asks what religion you are and you don't believe in God, you should lie. Most Tanzanians can't afford meat, so they only eat meat a couple times a month. Cows walk around the countryside gaunt and bony. Chickens provide eggs if they're not killed for their meat first, and goats are very common fare. Pork is less common since there are Muslims around, but most of the Muslims live on the coast. And by the way, people in Tanzania don't have pets. One of the most popular staples in Tanzania is ugali. Ugali is a paste made from grain. As you might expect, it's pretty plain. You can get ugali and roasted meat for less than 5,000 shillings in some places. The most popular alcoholic drink is kanyagi. That's a distilled liquor like gin, and it comes in 3 flavors: passion fruit, tamarind, and the classic. I recommend the classic, but it has the strongest alcoholic content of the bunch, and kanyagi has a mischievous reputation in Tanzania. Eating at restaurants is an experience. Sometimes after you order, they'll send someone out to buy the ingredients for the meal, and you might have to wait a long time. On the plus side, you know you're eating local food. You can't help but smell roasting meat as you pass by some parts of town. You can pick which piece you want, and they'll cook it up in front of you and everyone else. When the food is almost done, someone will approach your table with a kettle and a bucket and some soap. You're expected to wash your hands because people in Tanzania eat with their right hand. Sometimes there'll be a big water container instead of an attendant. Tipping is appreciated, but not expected. The only occupations that expect a tip in Tanzania, to my knowledge, are watchmen and safari guides. Going on safari is the #1 reason that white foreigners visit Tanzania, followed by hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's tallest mountain. Safaris are by far more popular. Witnessing the Great Migration on the high plains of the Serengeti, driving into Ngorongoro Crater, a massive caldera, these iconic drives have attracted millions of people to Tanzania over the years. I never went to those places, but I did drive through Lake Manyara and the amazing Tarangire National Park. Here you can see distant flamingos, water buffalo, loads of elephants, warthogs, and if you're lucky, lions. It's considered good luck if you can spot all of the big 5. Elephants, water buffalo, rhinoceroses, leopards, and lions. You know what? I'm going to shut up and let you watch some of these animals for a little while.
Ametengeneza njia Baba pasipo na njia, amefanya mlango imepita salama, katikati ya watu wengi waliokumbukwa na Mungu. Na mimi leo nimekumbukwa na Baba. Ametengeneza njia Baba pasipo njia, amefanya mlango kwangu nimepita salama, katikati ya watu wengi waliotazamwa na Mungu. Na mimi nimetazamwa. Ninayo sababu inayosababisha niseme huyu Mungu si mwanadamu. Ipo sababu kwangu inayosababisha niseme huyu Baba kanikumbuka. Kwa wakati ule ingetakiwa hesabu ya watu, mimi ningekuwepo, nisingechaguliwa. Kwa macho ya watu nisingekuwa na sifa yoyote. Nashukuru kwa Mungu kanikumbuka. Nimewaza Mungu nimfananishe na nani, nimetambua huyu baba hafananishwi. Nimefikiri ni mtu wa namna gani, nimejua Mungu si mwanadamu. Angenitazama kama atazamavyo mtu, hakika mimi nisingechaguliwa. Inayosababisha niseme huyu baba si mwanadamu. Ipo sababu kwangu inayosababisha niseme huyu baba kanikumbuka. Niseme na wote Mungu si mwanadamu. Ipo sababu kwangu inayosababisha niseme kwa ujasiri Mungu si mwanadamu. Katika nyumba ya Yese Daudi alisahaurika, huyu Mungu akamkumbuka. Kwa macho yao Daudi alikuwa mdogo, wa huyo Goliati aliangushwa. Inayosababisha niseme huyu baba si mwanadamu. Angetazama kama atazamavyo mtu, Daudi asingechaguliwa. Vile utazamwavyo, kwa Mungu wewe ni mwenye nguvu. Wewe huna sifa kwa vile unavyotazamwa, kwa Mungu wewe ni wa thamani. Usifedheheshwe na hukumu ya mwanadamu, nyamaza, yuko muhukumu atahukumu. Usilizwe ndugu na neno la mwanadamu, nyamaza, yuko baba wa wote anakupenda.
At the coast, if you have the opportunity to go there, I recommend swimming in the Indian Ocean. Here you can see a diverse and lively selection of organisms interacting symbiotically with each other. Overfishing and global warming are slowly reducing the glory of these fantastic spectacles, and one day there will be nothing left to admire. On land and sea, there are great challenges ahead for the environment. The topsoil across most of East Africa is losing essential nutrients for supporting agriculture, and the waters have been critically overfished. Rhino populations are dwindling from poachers, and droughts have been impacting the area. Resource scarcities, especially clean water, are more common, and the rapidly growing population lacks a quality education and faces an increasingly pessimistic job market. Necessary government reforms are met with hostility by corrupt or plainly traditional people, and Tanzania is being outpaced by its neighbor to the north, Kenya. Other much-needed reforms, like banking and infrastructure, aren't being introduced on a wide enough level. Time will tell if Tanzania can overcome its obstacles, but the people are optimistic about its future. They are hungry for an opportunity to work, and willing to do whatever it takes. If you enjoyed this documentary, please follow me on all your social media at Mr. Jon Lott, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Give this video a thumbs up and share it if you think it'll be useful for someone else. Thank you for watching.